NFL Week 10 is pretty much all the way behind us. We do have the Rams and the Miami Dolphins coming up on Monday. But I kind of wanted to give a quick reaction to what was a pretty interesting and telling Week 10 in the NFL on Sunday. I'll quickly talk about the game that happened on Thursday, one of the greater Thursday night football games that I've seen in a while, but between the Bengals and the Ravens. But if you look at it, that's a tale of two teams that really don't have a lot of defense. And I'll be brief on this game and what a game it was. But my two biggest takeaways from this game are, number one, I just feel bad for Joe Burrow and Jamar Chase. Like Jamar Chase, he goes out and has performances like this. He's looking like Jerry Rice out there in his prime, and they're just haven't paid him yet, haven't given him that contract yet, which is just kind of ridiculous. And Joe Burrow, they let Joe Mixon, they trade him for essentially nothing, and you let a lot of people on the defensive side walk, and it's really, really starting to take a toll on this team when you have those guys playing that well and just not getting a lot of the results. So that sucks for the Bengals there. And then the 2-point conversion, I actually justify it. I know there was a lot of pushback on that. I think that's the play that you have to make there, because if you do tie that game, then you give Lamar Jackson 40 seconds to only get in field goal range. They had been dominating the previous 3 or 4 drives, so I think that would have happened. But even if that doesn't happen, it goes to overtime, and essentially the game's in the hands of a coin flip. They wanted to control it, but where the Bengals were wrong is you have to go to Jamar Chase there at that point. Even if he's not open, you got to live and die by Jamar Chase on that play. And I don't think they did, and I think it cost them. But I still think that the Bengals could put something together and possibly get in a situation where they could sneak into the wild card, but they're going to have to roll off some wins here in a row, now sitting at 4-6. Going on to the game that was in Munich, actually a really close competitive game against two teams that obviously are going to be in that first overall pick debate. Daniel Jones showed more of the same, where he's just not putting it together. He had the red zone pick was more on Tracy, but just not able to put it together, just coming up short on drives. I will say Bryce Young played one of his better games that he has as a pro. Does it change my opinion on him playing the 2-8 Giants and doing that? No, but he looked more capable than he's been in a while. So I'll give him that. And then that Tracy fumble in overtime really was the nail in the coffin for the Giants, and the Panthers went on a field goal. Giants, they control their own destiny at this point, I'm pretty sure, for the first overall pick. So it's still early, but just disappointment. I don't think they get rid of Dable, but disappointing loss for the Giants there. But at this point, you're trying to get the best pick that you can if you're them, and this is going to get them in the right direction. Next up, going to the Bears and the Patriots. And I thought this is one of the few games that I missed. I went 10 of 13 today, but this is one of the few games that I missed because I just figured the Bears, this was a must-win game, in my opinion. I think that I think that they've been derailed and just kind of out of it ever since that Jaden Daniels Hail Mary throw. I think it really derailed them. But just they couldn't do anything on offense. And you have this roster that has a lot of talented offensive weapons, and they're just not able to do anything. Caleb Williams, it seems like he's just kind of going into a shell a little bit. Just when he gets off the field, doesn't want to look at anybody, not really being collaborative with teammates. It just looks like a mess there. And I'd be surprised if Matt Eberflus wasn't gone by the end of this week. It would be very surprising because this is a game that you had to win. Drake May looks like a capable quarterback. If you're talking quarterbacks out of this draft class so far, it's like Jaden Daniels number 1, 2, 3. Drake May and Bo Nix. I haven't decided where I'm putting that yet. And then I think Caleb's down to 4 at this point. And it's not a talent thing. Caleb Williams is struggling to throw out of the pocket right now. And that's a huge issue in the NFL. You need to be able to throw out of the pocket if you want to be an effective quarterback in the NFL. It's just a proven thing. And he hasn't been able to do that very well. And this is a bad loss for the Bears. And at some point, they're going to have to figure some things out because it's getting ugly when they might have looked a little bit better. Like DJ Moore seems like he's completely bought out on Caleb Williams. He had a much better season with Justin Fields. It's getting interesting with them. But yeah, we'll see because that's a noisy. Chicago's a noisy media. You don't want this. I think Eberflus is gone by the end of the week. Next, going to the Bills and the Colts. I think the one telling thing that you learned about this game, and the Bills didn't play a great game. It was a sloppy game. Didn't play great. I think Joe Flacco did not look very good in this one. Had some bad picks. I think that the Colts need to figure out, they need to get the right quarterback. You have a pretty talented roster there that can make things happen, but you need a guy. And obviously, Joe Flacco, he's a fine bridge guy that can get you a certain amount of wins. But obviously, when you're playing a team like the Bills, he can't overcome something like that. And I thought, like I said, I thought that it was kind of an uglier win for them, but nonetheless, they found a way to do it. So that was kind of one of the mediocre games that was played, but I think that like Josh Allen, he had 2 picks, but they were still able to win by 10. So I think that's very telling. Next, going to the Chiefs and the Broncos. What a game this was. And I like when I did my predictions, I was really thinking about taking the Broncos. I still ended up taking the Chiefs. This just seemed like one of those games where it's an in-division opponent. Maybe they find a way to win. And it looked like they were going to win this game. But the Chiefs, there was never a fear. They come back. They're coming off a short week, too. These are tough games to win when you're coming off a short week. They played on Monday night. These aren't easy games to win. And it's just like Mahomes figures it out. He finds a way, gets it to Kelsey at certain times. And they find a way to go up. And it looks like they have a chip shot. I think it's like a 35-yard field goal. And they just come through with a huge block and go to 9-0, continue the win streak. Just keep finding a way to win. I think it is telling, though, with the Broncos, though, where the roster it's good and capable, but I think a lot of this is coaching. I think a lot of it's coaching. Sean Payton's done a great job with this team. In my opinion, I think they sneak into the postseason. It's either going to be them or the Bengals in that kind of 7 spot. And I think that they get in, but I think Bo Nix and Sean Payton's found his next quarterback. Like, I wouldn't be surprised if Bo Nix is the guy in Denver for like 10 to 12 more years. Like, I think they found their guy and their match at this point. And it's a game where this is kind of what I predicted, but the fact that the Chiefs are able to continue that streak, that was pretty crazy. Next, going on to the Falcons, Falcons Saints game, I thought that they just underperformed terribly. Where I'm just surprised. But what I will say about the Saints is usually when you get rid of a head coach, this is the usual that happens. You're kind of motivated, you're more pumped up. Obviously, Dennis Allen getting fired. And I think that's what kind of led them to, like, we need to do something positive with the Saints. They had lost 7 straight. It's a good win for them. Falcons still have a lead over that division, and I think they're going to hold on and win it. But they just kept biting themselves in the foot. They had a bad pick, certain situations that just didn't work out for them well. So they got to really, I think that they still have a stranglehold on this division. Because I think the next closest team is the Bucs, but I think the Saints definitely needed this one because just everything going on, and it was a pretty solid effort for them in a season that's pretty much lost. Next, going on the 49ers and the Bucs. And I think there's serious concern with the 49ers here. I really think there is, where they it seemed like they dominated this game, and yet they need a game-winning field goal to find a way to do it. And Christian McCaffrey didn't look great, but obviously he's missed a lot of time. He wasn't going to come out in this game and look incredible, so you can't really knock him from that perspective. But I think it is something to say that there's these games this year where the 49ers, they're just dominating, it seems like, and they just can't find a way to like extend leads. And you're looking at the score and it's like 20-7. It's weird in my opinion, but I thought Purdy played pretty well today. The Buccaneers, Baker was, I found myself rooting for Baker in this game. Like, he's just out there doing everything. There's a play where they're like holding his arm and he just finds a way to complete this throw. He's really had a great year. And I thought that last year he was good. I think this year he's better. And he won a playoff game last year. If they don't have these injuries, I think they're the best team in that division. I think that they're better than the Falcons. Like, if you look at the game against the Falcons that they played the other time when they were more healthy, if Bucky Irving doesn't fumble that ball and a few other weird things don't happen, they win that game pretty easily. And you're talking about a different shakeup here, but with those injuries, it's going to be tough for them to bounce back. But Baker's just kind of doing everything, playing really well. I think the Bucky Irving guy has been a good surprise for him. But I think the main takeaway from this game is the 49ers. I figured they were going to win this game by a lot more, and just were not able to do that. So that's a team to keep on watch. I think they still like win 10 games. It looks like a 10-7 team to me, but I don't know if they're going to be able to get out of the NFC again. It's the next couple weeks are very telling for this 49ers team. Next, going on to the Steelers and Commanders. This is a game where I really thought the Commanders were going to win this game for a lot of it. It just looked like they had it. And I kept saying, I was like, it's a very impressive win for the Commanders. And then the Steelers just kind of got into a rhythm. They had a really good second half. Just were consistent with it. Russell Wilson, say what you want about him, but I said that these are the spots where he's comfortable playing. You got that great defense that is putting you in position. The run game plays a lot better with him. And at the end of the game, he just finds that great throw to Mike Williams. It was a great deep shot where he was just, and that's the difference between him and Justin Fields. Justin Fields would not have been able to make that throw to Mike Williams at the end. Wouldn't have been able to make it. And Russell Wilson, he's older. He's not mobile at all, but he can make throws like that. And it looks like Pickens, all of them, they look more bought in with him because they know I think there's a confidence there. And this is a good Steelers team. I think it's going to be very telling next week when they play the Ravens. But you have a good Steelers team here that got a pretty quality win on the road against this Commanders team. And the Commanders, Jaden Daniels and Terry McLaurin and all, it's just a really good story this year that they're putting on. They have a really tough, in my opinion, Thursday night matchup. I still am undecided on who I'm going to pick for that one. That looks like just a really tough shakeup against the Philadelphia Eagles. But I thought they had this game for a bit. They weren't able to close. They weren't able to close it, obviously, and Jaden Daniels didn't get the shot because of that bad offsides penalty. But I think if you're them, you're sitting at 7-3. This is a playoff team, in my opinion, without question. You have a guy like Jaden Daniels who is going to be incredible for the next couple of years. This is a loss where just being where you've been, this is a loss that I think that you can take. And this was a weird game where Steelers, they fumbled at the 1 and they had that weird fake punt thing. So there was a lot of weirdness to this game, but I think that the takeaway is Russell Wilson gives this Steelers team more of a chance they've had in a while, is what I will say. And I still don't think that they can go toe-to-toe with the top guys in the AFC, but they have a much better chance than they've had in a while, is what I'll say about the Pittsburgh Steelers. Going on to the Vikings and the Jags. This is a game where if Mac Jones is just awful. If Mac Jones isn't awful, like Sam Darnold has 3 picks in this game. I think 2 of those picks are in the red zone. The Vikings just kept biting themselves in the foot time and time and time again. And the roster is just so much better than that they were just able to figure it out. I thought the Jags defense played pretty well overall, but just nothing on offense. And a lot of that's Mac Jones. He's just quite frankly, not very good. But that's kind of a mess there in Jacksonville. The fact that it seems like Trevor Lawrence is always hurt, and there's just a lot of issues there. The Vikings, I think this is a game that they really needed because I think there's some L's coming up for them. There's limitations to Sam Darnold. There is. And it's like sometimes you're going to get that really good performance, but sometimes you're going to get this. And this is, if it's other teams than the Jags, then it's like this could have been a pretty bad outcome. But the Vikings find a way to hold on and get that 12-7 win. Going on to the Chargers and the Titans, Justin Herbert looks like what I thought he'd look like with having Harbaugh there. The demeanor's different. He looks relaxed. He looks more in tune. Everything seems like it's going more his way at this point. You have Gus Edwards, Dobbins that are playing well for them. Tennessee, in my opinion, is just a mess right now. You got Will Levis back in action. I thought he had one nice throw to Calvin Ridley, but this is a team in the Titans that they need to hope they get a high pick, and they need to make sure at quarterback they do the right thing. And that's pretty much it with them. But the Chargers, this is surely a wild card team, in my opinion, after just seeing they just look so much more capable. That defense last year, essentially the same unit of people, was one of the worst defenses in the NFL last year. This year, top 5 unit. It's what he's done, what Harbaugh has come in and done so far, and the confidence he's instilled in this Chargers team is pretty remarkable. Going on, we have the Eagles and the Cowboys. This is a game where the Eagles, they kind of played with their food for a little bit, and it was a close 14-6 game at half. And I think after that, they just turned it on. They were like, all right, like we need to be, like, this is a bad Cowboys team. And it is a bad Cowboys team right now. Micah Parsons plays, but you have Cooper Rush doesn't do much of note. Their running backs, that situation is terrible. You have the Zeke fumble after having the weird week that he was like going over. There was a lot of weirdness to that. And yeah, it's just the receiving core for the Cowboys is really bad too. You have a mess there in Dallas, you do. And I guess you got to just keep losing at this point. They might be one of the worst teams in the NFL right now. Just purely, you have Dak's going to be out for the year, and there's a lot of it's just, and then on the other side, the Eagles, it's like that roster is like a top 3 roster in the NFL. Are they going to be able to put it together? And I think they're doing a lot of things right. But we'll see where it goes. But yeah, Cowboys, what a blunder of a year. And we'll see what happens in the offseason with them. But yeah, it's gross for the Cowboys right now. Next up to the Jets and the Cardinals. This is another team where it's just pretty gross for them right now. I was watching this game, and I was just sitting there. I was like, I feel bad for the Jets. I was sitting there. I was like, I just feel bad for the Jets. That's how bad they are. That's how bad the Jets are, that like I feel bad for them. That's what you see when you're watching them. It's like, this is just a mess. You have this aging quarterback. You have Devontae Adams, looks like he's aging a bit. The defense looks just kind of broken without Robert Saleh there. It seems like they're just not the same unit without him there, which is, I figured that he had a big pull on that defensive side. I didn't know it was that big as it was. You had that play where Sauce Gardner just gets thrown to the ground, just kind of to demoralize it even more. On the other side, the Cardinals, they're looking really good. Like the past couple weeks, they've looked like a serious team, in my opinion. You got Marvin Harrison Jr. playing a lot better. Trey McBride, James Conner looks good. Kyler Murray is just slinging it, running around. They've looked pretty darn good recently, and we'll see what happens, where things go. But they've looked pretty darn good recently. But that's like, I figured that they'd win pretty big in this game. My takeaway from all this is the Jets are just terrible. Then going on to Sunday Night Football in what was a game that obviously the Texans missing some people. You have the Lions who make this comeback in this game. Jared Goff had 5 picks today, and they still had a walk-off win. And I think the biggest thing to be had from this game is they can play that bad. He can throw 5 interceptions. They can trail that much, and they still find a way to win it out in the end against a pretty honorable Houston team. Obviously, there's injuries to the O-line and there's injuries on the receiving core, but a pretty reliable Houston team they beat, and they're able to come in there playing that poorly and get this win at the end of the game. That's something to say. And this is kind of a warm-up for them because they're going to get into close games in the postseason. Are they going to be able to win those games? This is my best team in the NFL right now. They've looked great. They've looked incredible in moments. But this is one of those ugly, weird wins that is going to kind of give them experience in the future. And I thought that it was a great test for them, and I thought it was really important to see them get this win. But we'll see, because if you're able to play that poorly and get a win like this, that shows me that they're pretty strong and pretty scary. We'll see how it shakes up. I'm excited for the Monday night game. Rams, Dolphins, tune into that. But that will do it.